Once upon a time there was a little, nice girl. She was sweet to everyone who only saw her. But she was the loveliest and dearest of all to her grandmother, who did not even know what to give her beloved granddaughter. Once she gave her a red velvet hat. And since this hat was very suitable for her, and she did not want to wear anything else, they began to call her Little Red Riding Hood. Once her mother asked to take a piece of cake and a bottle of wine to her grandmother. They say that she is both sick and weak, it will be good for her. She ordered my mother not to run away from the road, otherwise she would fall and break the bottle, and then grandmother would get nothing. And when she comes to her grandmother, so that she does not forget to say hello to her. Little Red Riding Hood obeyed, took the presents and set off. And my grandmother lived already behind the forest, half an hour walk from the village. And as soon as Little Red Riding Hood entered the forest, she met a wolf. The girl, however, did not know what kind of fierce beast it was, and was not in the least afraid of him. She greeted politely. The wolf also behaved very decently, so Little Red Riding Hood told the wolf that she was bringing gifts to her beloved grandmother. And while she was telling how to get to her grandmother's house, the wolf thought to himself how he could eat not only the old woman, but also a pretty girl. And then the wolf thought of showing Little Red Riding Hood a huge meadow with beautiful flowers. Little Red Riding Hood, as she looked at the many wonderful flowers, thought that it would be nice to bring grandmother a fresh bunch of flowers, because that would also please her. Yes, and ran away from the road to the side, and began to collect flowers. Slightly picking one flower, as the other beckons her, it is even better, and she will run after that. And so it went further and further into the depths of the forest. And the wolf ran straight to grandmother's house and knocked on the door. Grandma asked who was there. And the wolf replied in a thin voice that it was Little Red Riding Hood who brought the pie and wine. The old woman believed and ordered to press on the latch and enter. The wolf pressed the latch, the door flew open, and he ran to his grandmother's hut. He rushed to grandmother's bed and swallowed it at once. Then he put on his grandmother's dress and her cap on her head, went to bed and waited. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood ran and ran after flowers, and when she collected as many of them as she could carry, then she again remembered about her grandmother and went to her house. She was very surprised that the door was wide open, and when she entered the room, she called out to her grandmother. There was no answer. The granddaughter came up to the bed and saw grandmother was lying, and she had pulled her cap on her very nose, and it seemed so strange. Little Red Riding Hood asked with bewilderment why grandmother had such big ears. And the wolf answered in a grandmother's voice to hear better. Then Little Red Riding Hood asked why grandmother had such big eyes. To better see you, the wolf answered. And the arms are so big that it is easier to grip. And when Little Red Riding Hood saw the wolf's mouth and only asked why grandmother had such a nasty big mouth, the wolf pounced on her, screaming, "So I could eat you!" And how he jumped out from under the blanket and swallowed the poor girl. Having had enough in this way, the wolf again went to bed, fell asleep, and began to snore as much as he could. At that time a hunter was passing by the grandmother's house, heard snoring and wondered if something had happened to the old woman that she snored so. He entered the house, went to the bed and saw that the wolf was sleeping there. And he has been hunting this villain for a long time. He wanted to kill him with a gun, but it occurred to him that the wolf, perhaps, swallowed his grandmother and that she could still be saved. That is why he did not shoot, but opened his wolf's mouth wide, and saw a red cap flashed there. A girl jumped out of her mouth and said that her grandmother was still there. The hunter opened his wolf's mouth even wider, and the old grandmother somehow managed to get out behind the Red Riding Hood. They were delighted, began to hug and thank the hunter. They decided to teach a cunning wolf a lesson. They brought up large stones as soon as possible, stuffed them into the wolf's mouth and belly, and carried him out into the yard. And when the wolf woke up, he saw the hunter, and was about to escape, but could not bear the weight of the stones, and fell to the ground. This delighted all three, while the wolf got up and barely dragged its heavy belly into the dark forest. They never saw him again. This is how they taught the cunning wolf a lesson, and Little Red Riding Hood decided that she would never again disobey Mother's orders.
Stingy old Mr. Scrooge has long loved nothing or anyone but his own money. He did not understand the joy that Christmas and New Year brought to others. Therefore, on the eve of the holiday, the old man refused to let his assistant leave work early, who wanted to buy a present for his son. Mr. Scrooge even turned down his nephew's invitation to celebrate Christmas with his family, and also refused to donate money to help children in need. The old man closed his office late in the evening and went home. And then, in his bedroom, strange things began to happen. A wind blew from somewhere, thunder rumbled, and suddenly the ghost of his companion, who had died last Christmas, appeared in front of him. Mr. Scrooge was very scared and did not understand what was happening. The spirit said that after death he was punished for not doing good and not helping people during his lifetime. He did not want the old man to suffer the same fate. So he warned Scrooge that 3 other ghosts would soon visit him. After these words, the spirit disappeared. The old man pretended that nothing had happened. But soon, the ghost of a child appeared before him. Mr. Scrooge was stunned because it was the spirit of his past years. The ghost, with the help of magic, transferred them to the past. The old man saw himself as a little boy in the town where he was born and raised. He was decorating the Christmas tree, and he had a lot of fun. Then Mr. Scrooge saw himself in his youth, the day when, full of delight and hope, he proposed to his beloved. After that, the old man saw himself matured. His wife was crying, and he could not understand why she decided to part with him. The fact is that Scrooge no longer paid attention to her, but only thought about money. The old man could not look at such himself from the side, and asked the ghost to return him back. The spirit eventually disappeared, but another ghost appeared in its place. He carried Scrooge to his assistant's home on Christmas Eve. The whole family was sitting at a poor table. The old man was sure that they all hated him, but he became convinced that this was not so. The aide offered a toast to Mr. Scrooge's health, and his wife very willingly joined the toast. And then the old man noticed that the son of his assistant was sick. Scrooge felt sorry for the child and ashamed of his behavior. Then the ghost took the old man to the house of his nephew. His whole family was happy about the holiday. Most importantly, they left a seat at the table for Mr. Scrooge. The old man did not expect to see this. He always thought that the whole family hated him. Eventually the ghost disappeared, but the spirit of future years appeared in its place. He brought Mr. Scrooge to his own funeral. Everyone said that it became easier for them when the old man finally died. Only then did he realize that in his entire life he had not brought good to anyone. Then Scrooge saw his helper carrying flowers to his son's grave. The old man could no longer look at it, and asked the ghost to bring him back. The third spirit disappeared, and Scrooge was back at home. The old man finally decided to change for the better. Fortunately, he found that time had gone back a few hours. Mr. Scrooge decided not to waste a minute. He still had time to change everything. The old man was sincerely happy about the approaching Christmas. He sent the most expensive and fattest turkey to his assistant's house. Scrooge then sent a gift to the helper's son, and donated a huge amount of money to charity. After that, the old man went to celebrate Christmas with his nephew, where the whole family welcomed him. The next day, when Scrooge's assistant came to work, he raised his salary. For his son, the old man became a godfather. Mr. Scrooge gave the boy the best possible treatment, and he continued to enjoy a healthy life. Since then, the stingy old man has become the kindest and most generous person in the city, and has earned universal love and respect.